Let's begin by understanding something fundamental. You cannot control the world outside of you until you gain control of the world within you. All achievement, peace, and power begin in the mind. Your ability to shape your emotions and direct your thoughts is not just a luxury, it is a necessity. Without it, even the most talented, intelligent, or privileged individuals find themselves caught in cycles of stress, conflict, and regret, and with it, the average person can rise to levels of greatness they never thought possible. That's the truth. But before we get into the actionable tips, the tactics, the mental strategies, the emotional techniques, we have to start at the foundation, and the foundation is awareness. See, most people go through life completely unaware of what's happening inside their own minds. They think because they're having thoughts, they must be in control of them. But that's not how it works. Just because a thought comes to you doesn't mean it's true. Just because you feel an emotion doesn't mean it deserves your reaction. Your brain is like a machine, a brilliant one, yes, but it's running programs, many of which were installed without your permission. Childhood beliefs, traumas, social conditioning, and unless you become aware of those programs, they run you. They steer your behavior. They affect your mood. They decide how you treat people and how you talk to yourself. You think you're making conscious choices, but you're not. You're reacting. That's the real battle. Before you can direct your mind, you must first observe it, become a witness to it. Start paying attention to your internal world, how you respond when someone criticizes you, how you feel when plans don't go your way, how you interpret a neutral silence from a friend. Most people don't stop to question those reactions. They assume their feelings are facts, but the truth is, feelings are feedback, not commands. That discomfort you're feeling, it's not there to break you. It's a signal. But you can't hear the message unless you pause long enough to listen. Now, I want you to think about this. Every master of their field, every person who achieves true influence and fulfillment has one thing in common. They've learned how to delay their reaction. They don't live on impulse. They don't lash out when angry. They don't spiral into doubt the moment something goes wrong. Why? Because they've cultivated the discipline of awareness, and that awareness gives them choice. That's what we're after here. Choice. The ability to choose your response. The ability to sit with a thought, look at it, and say, does this serve me? Is this thought helping me get where I want to go? If not, you let it go. You don't fight it. You don't suppress it. You just don't feed it. That's power. Let me tell you, no strategy, no tactic, no morning routine will work unless you first gain this level of awareness. You can listen to all the motivational speeches in the world. You can fill your walls with vision boards and your phone with productivity apps. But if you don't know how your mind works, if you don't catch the moment when a negative spiral begins, if you don't catch the second your ego takes over, then you're still at the mercy of your emotions. And that's no way to live. Because if you don't control your emotions, someone else will. They'll sell you things to feel better. They'll manipulate your fears to push their agenda. They'll convince you that your worth is tied to their approval. And without awareness, you'll believe it. That's the danger of being unconscious. But the moment you wake up to what's really happening inside your mind, you take back your power. You stop blaming. You stop reacting. You start responding with intention. Now, does this happen overnight? No, it's a practice. But like any muscle, the more you train it, the stronger it gets. You begin to recognize your emotional triggers. You start to see the gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap, that tiny pause, lies your freedom. So today, I'm asking you to begin watching yourself, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Watch how you talk to yourself. Watch the stories you repeat. Are they empowering, or are they keeping you small? Watch how you respond to stress, to failure, to praise, to silence. There's wisdom in every reaction if you're willing to look. The greatest mistake people make is thinking that control means suppression, that controlling your emotions means ignoring them. That's not control. That's avoidance. Real control comes from understanding, from integration, from knowing that you're not your thoughts, but you can choose which ones to follow. You're not your emotions, but you can then learn from every one of them. When you develop this kind of awareness, everything begins to change. You stop chasing happiness and start generating it. You stop fearing setbacks and start using them. You stop being ruled by your past and start creating your future, deliberately, consciously, powerfully. If you want to control your life, you must first control your mind. And that begins by waking up to the truth of who you are, not your thoughts, not your fears, not your doubts, but the one who sees it all and chooses what comes next. Let's move forward now. Once you start becoming aware of what's going on in your mind, really seeing it without judgment, you step into a new level of personal power. But awareness alone isn't enough. The next step, the next evolution in mastering your emotions and gaining true control over your life, is understanding how to manage your thoughts. That's where transformation begins. You see, most people live under the illusion that their thoughts are just happening to them, like weather patterns they have no control over. But that's not true. Your thoughts are not just random. They are shaped by what you focus on, what you believe, what you repeat, and what you allow. And here's the key: whatever you allow consistently will eventually shape your reality, because your thoughts create emotion, and emotion drives action, and action over time becomes your life. Think about this. How many times have you replayed the same conversation in your head? How often do you imagine the worst case scenario before you even try? How often do you compare yourself to someone else and feel like you're behind? These aren't just fleeting thoughts. They are mental habits. And if you don't consciously break those patterns, they become the lens through which you experience everything. That's how people end up living lives they don't even like, simply because they never learn to control the way they think. But here's the truth: UF can change those patterns. You can condition your mind just like you condition your body. It starts by recognizing one very important fact: you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker, and the thinker can choose. That choice is your power. That ability to redirect, to reframe, to question. That's the power most people never claim. But the moment you do, everything changes. Let's be real. You're going to have negative thoughts. You're going to have fear-based thoughts. You're going to have doubts, insecurities, worries. That's part of being human. But those thoughts don't have to drive your life. You don't have to believe every single one. The mind will throw all kinds of things at you, based on past pain, past failure, someone else's opinion, even your own ego trying to keep you safe. But just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean you have to feed it. You don't have to give it space to grow. That's where mental discipline comes in. You have to train your mind like a warrior trains for battle, with consistency, with repetition, with absolute commitment. You start by becoming aware of your most common disempowering thoughts. What's the story that shows up when you're tired, when things don't go your way, when someone criticizes you? What's the thought that gets you to give up early, to shrink back, to stay quiet when you should speak up? Once you see that pattern, once you catch it in the moment, now you have the leverage to challenge it. You ask yourself, is this true? Most of the time, it's not. You ask, is this useful? Probably not. And then you replace it. That's where the work is, in the replacement. You deliberately choose a new thought that aligns with who you want to become. Not just something that sounds nice, but something that resonates with truth. I'm not behind. I'm learning at my pace. This setback doesn't define me. It strengthens me. I don't need to be perfect to be powerful. These aren't just affirmations, they're commands. And when you repeat those commands with emotion, with intensity, with belief, your brain begins to rewire. That's not fantasy, that's neuroscience. Your brain literally builds new pathways based on what you focus on and repeat. But if you keep rehearsing stress, rehearsing failure, rehearsing rejection, then don't be surprised when that becomes your emotional default. You're programming it, whether you mean to or not. So why not take control of that programming? Why not decide what goes into your mental operating system? You can flood your mind with clarity, purpose, optimism, and strategy. But it's not going to happen by accident. You've got to do it on purpose. You've got to become the gatekeeper of your own mind. Be ruthless about what you allow in. Just like you wouldn't eat rotten food, don't let rotten thoughts take root. Starve the thoughts that weaken you and feed the ones that empower you. And here's something else. Your environment matters. Who you talk to, what you listen to, what you watch, what you read. Every single thing around you is either reinforcing your highest self or pulling you back into limitation. So if you're serious about mastering your mind, you need to become intentional about your inputs. Hang around people who speak life into you. Listen to ideas that expand you. Eliminate distractions that drain you. Make it your mission to design a mental environment that supports your goals and values. Now I know this isn't always easy, especially when life gets messy, especially when the old thoughts come knocking hard. But if you stay consistent, even in small ways, you'll start to notice something powerful. The negative thoughts lose their grip, the emotional spirals get shorter, the moments of peace last longer, and eventually you become someone who doesn't just react to life, you create it. That's what we're doing here. That's what this is all about. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about giving yourself the tools to meet imperfection with strength, with clarity, with grace. It's about becoming the kind of person who can sit with any emotion, face any challenge, and still direct their mind toward purpose. That's the kind of control that changes everything. You can't stop every thought from showing up, but you can decide which ones stay. Once you become aware of the thoughts running through your mind, and once you start managing those thoughts deliberately, something powerful starts to happen. You begin to change the way you feel. You start to take control of your emotional experience instead of being ruled by it. And that's where we go deeper. Because now it's about regulating your emotions, not just understanding them. It's about choosing how you feel, how you respond, and ultimately how you show up, no matter what life throws at you. Now let's be clear. This isn't about suppressing emotions. That's a mistake a lot of people make. They think controlling their emotions means ignoring them, bottling them up, acting like everything's fine when it's not. But real emotional control doesn't come from pretending. It comes from a processing and a redirecting. You face the emotion, you feel it, you understand where it's coming from. And then, here's the key, you decide what to do with it. That's what emotional regulation is really about, staying grounded when everything around you is shaking, keeping your center when circumstances try to pull you off balance, responding, not reacting. And let me tell you, that skill, that's a superpower. Most people don't even realize that they can shift their emotional state on command. They think they have to wait for the outside world to make them feel better. They wait for the apology. They wait for the good news. They wait for the right conditions. But if you live like that, if you wait for life to give you a reason to feel good, you give up all your power. You become a slave to circumstance, and the world will never hand you peace on a silver platter. So you have to learn how to generate it from the inside. And that starts with physiology. Your body is a direct pathway to changing how you feel. If you're slouched over, breathing shallow, face tense, how are you going to feel? Anxious, tired, defeated. But what happens when you lift your chest, take a deep breath, move your body with energy, change the rhythm of your breath? Suddenly your state shifts. Not because life changed, but because you've changed. That's why breath work is so powerful. It's not just some wellness trend, it's a tool that can reset your nervous system in seconds. You've got to understand that your breath is the remote control for your brain. You breathe fast and shallow. Your brain thinks there's danger. You slow it down, breathe deep and steady, and the brain gets the message. War's safe. That's when you can think clearly. That's when you can choose a response instead of being hijacked by stress. And when it comes to regulating emotions, choice is everything. Because emotions are energy in motion. They rise, they peak, and if you don't resist them or feed them with more fear, they pass. But what do most people do? They either fight the emotion, I shouldn't feel this way, or they feed it. This always happens to me. Either way, the emotion stays longer. It digs deeper. But if you can pause, breathe, feel, and they'd observe the emotion without judgment, it loses its grip. You take the wheel back. This isn't about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent, knowing when to let the emotion guide you and when to let it go. Anger, for example, can be fuel if directed wisely. Sadness can lead to healing if you give it space. But unchecked, these emotions can destroy relationships, damage your health, cloud your judgment. You want to regulate emotion like you drive a powerful car. You don't slam on the gas or swerve every time there's a bump. You stay steady. You stay aware. You use the energy wisely. And just like a car needs maintenance, your emotional system needs daily care. That's where habits come in. Daily practices like meditation aren't about sitting on a cushion and emptying your mind. They're about building emotional resilience, training your mind to sit with discomfort without panicking, developing the muscle to return to calm no matter what shows up. And it's not just about silence. Journaling, for instance, is a way to process emotions instead of letting them pile up. You get them out, you look at them, you understand them, and then you choose what to keep and what to release. But even with all these tools, you're going to get tested. Life will throw something unexpected. Someone will hurt you. Something won't go your way. And in that moment, everything you've trained for matters. Can you pause before you react? Can you breathe instead of breaking down? Can you choose grace over rage? That's when you know you're in control. That's when you're not just surviving your emotions, you're leading them. And look, no one gets this perfect. This is a practice. There will be days when emotions get the best of you. That's okay. But what matters is that you come back. You remind yourself, I am not the emotion. I am the one who feels it, sees it, and can shift it. Because when you master your emotional state, you become unshakable. And the world respects that kind of calm. People feel it. You walk into a room and you don't need to say a word, your presence speaks. That's the kind of control that doesn't just change how you feel. It changes how others feel around you. It makes you a leader, not by title, but by energy. You can't stop emotions from rising, but you can learn how to ride the wave and choose your direction. Now that we've talked about awareness, thought management, and regulating your emotional state, we've laid the groundwork for something even more essential, consistency. Because without consistency, even the best insights fade. Even the strongest intentions collapse. If you want lasting control over your mind and emotions, not just moments of clarity, but a life that reflects that inner strength, you need to build habits that reinforce it. Not once, not sometimes, but every single day. It's the daily patterns that shape your identity. The small things you do consistently determine whether you live from a place of power or a place of chaos. Think about it. What do you do the first hour of your day? What's your mental state when you go to sleep? What are you feeding your mind and body in between? These aren't random details. These are the bricks that build your inner foundation. And if you don't lay them with intention, you end up living on shaky ground. Let me put it straight. Emotional strength doesn't come from just thinking positive. It's not a switch you flip when life gets hard. It's a set of habits, disciplines, that you commit to when life is calm, so you're prepared when it's not. You train your nervous system, your mindset, your focus, just like an athlete trains for competition. You don't wait until game day to build muscle. You build it in the dark. You build it in the quiet. You build it when no one's watching and no crisis is pushing you. That's how you develop control that lasts. One of the most powerful habits to build that mental strength is having a structured morning. You don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. and run a marathon, but you do have to start your day with intention. Because if you don't claim the first part of your day, the world will, your phone will, notifications will, the stress of everyone else's agenda will come pouring in, and before you've even taken a breath, you're reacting instead of creating. You want to own the day, then own the first hour. Start with something that grounds you. Breathwork, journaling, stretching, reviewing your goals, practicing gratitude, something that tells your mind, I'm in charge today. Not the noise, not the fear. Me. That one choice in the morning creates momentum, and momentum compounds. It sets the tone for how you carry yourself, how you respond, and how you think. And this isn't just mental. Your physical habits play a massive role in your emotional state. You want emotional stability. Then you've got to take care of your body, get enough sleep, move daily, hydrate. Fuel yourself with food that supports your energy, not drains it. This isn't about perfection, it's about self-respect. When your body is drained, it's nearly impossible to manage your emotions. Your tolerance goes down, your clarity fades, your reactions get sharper. So many emotional breakdowns people experience aren't about the situation, they're about physical exhaustion. Lack of sleep, too much sugar, no movement. If your body is inflamed, your mind will be inflamed too. And it goes both ways. Your emotional state affects your health. Chronic stress, unchecked anxiety, internalized anger. Those things don't just make you feel bad. They break you down. They wear out your immune system. They keep your nervous system in a fight or flight loop. That's why you need daily habits that reset your system. Grounding practices that bring you back to center. For some, it's meditation. For others, it's a walk in silence. It could be prayer, or music, or time alone without stimulation. The point is, you make it part of your life, not just something you do when things fall apart. You've also got to protect your mind from the mental junk food that's everywhere. Social media, negative news, toxic conversations. They are constant sources of emotional pollution. You have to get intentional about what you consume. Be ruthless. You're not obligated to take in everything the world throws at you. You're not weak for muting people who drain you. You're not selfish for creating boundaries around your peace. In fact, that's the highest form of strength, the willingness to curate your inputs so your inner world stays clean. And here's something most people forget: your environment is stronger than your willpower. You can have all the goals in the world, but if you're surrounded by people and routines that contradict those goals, you're going to get pulled back every time. You've got to build a system that supports the person you're becoming. That might mean rethinking your schedule, changing who you spend time with, eliminating distractions. It's not always comfortable. But comfort isn't the goal, growth is, and growth demands structure. The truth is, if you want to master your emotions, you can't leave it to chance. You can't hope you'll be in a good state when it matters. You have trained yourself to be in a good state by living in alignment with practices that keep you strong. And that training isn't always exciting. Sometimes it's repetitive. Sometimes it's quiet. But in that repetition, your identity shifts. You stop being someone who tries to stay calm, focused, and powerful, and you become that person by default. Because your life reflects what you do consistently, not what you do occasionally. People look for hacks and shortcuts, but the real secret is consistency. Show up for yourself daily, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Because that's how you build resilience. That's how you develop a mind that doesn't waver when the world shakes. That's how you create emotional control that isn't fragile, but forged through practice. Your habits are either building the strongest version of you, or they're silently weakening it. Choose them like your life depends on it, because it does. So now you've become aware of your inner world. You're managing your thoughts. You're regulating your emotions. You've even begun to build strong, supportive habits. That's the foundation, and it's solid. But there's another level, because mastering your mind and emotions doesn't stop with your internal experience. It expands outward. It shows up in how you connect with others, how you handle pressure, how you lead, how you love. how you show up when life isn't neat and easy. This is where emotional intelligence becomes the edge that separates people who just survive from those who truly thrive. Let's talk about what that means in real life. Emotional intelligence isn't about being soft or overly sensitive. It's not about pretending to understand everyone or walking on eggshells. It's about reading the room, far reading yourself, and responding with intention. It's about staying in command of your emotional energy while navigating the complexity of human relationships. And let's face it, life is relationships. Business, leadership, family, friendship, everything meaningful in life runs through your ability to deal with people. And you can't do that well if you're emotionally erratic, defensive, or stuck in your own head. So, how do you carry this emotional mastery into your interactions? It starts with self awareness, yes, but it evolves into social awareness. You begin to understand that your energy influences the people around you. If you walk into a room with tension, people feel it. If you respond to stress with panic, others mirror it. If you're calm, centered, and emotionally grounded, that energy spreads too. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You don't just react to the emotional temperature of the environment, you set it. This is where leadership begins, not with titles, but with presence. When people feel safe around you, when they feel seen and respected, when they know you can remain grounded under pressure, they trust you. And trust is the currency of influence. You can have the best ideas, the sharpest mind, the boldest vision, but if you can't connect, you can't lead. And connection doesn't come from talking louder or being right. It comes from listening, from empathy, from emotional maturity. Now, I know that word, empathy, gets tossed around a lot, but let's talk about what it really is. Empathy isn't about agreeing with everyone. It's about understanding where someone's coming from. It's the ability to hold space for someone else's experience without needing to fix it, defend yourself, or make it about you. And when you develop that skill, you unlock a whole new level of strength. Because the truth is, it's easy to react when someone's emotional. It's easy to get defensive, to take things personally, to shut down or lash out. But the one who stays present, composed, and curious in the face of someone else's emotion, that's the one in control. That's the person who creates impact, who builds trust, who leads with both heart and strength. And emotional intelligence doesn't just help you connect with others. It helps you handle adversity like a pro. Life is going to test you. People are going to misunderstand you. Projects will fall apart. Unexpected challenges will knock on your door when you least expect them. But when you've trained yourself to stay emotionally centered, you don't collapse under that pressure. You arise. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What's my best move now?" You don't panic, you pivot. You don't spiral, you strategize. That's emotional intelligence in action. And it shows up in those moments where most people lose themselves, when the deal falls through, when the relationship gets hard, when the plan changes. In those moments, you want to be the one who stays composed, not because you're pretending everything is fine, but because you know how to handle the storm. It's not about avoiding hard conversations. It's about approaching them from a place of clarity and courage. It's about being able to say what needs to be said without turning cold or aggressive. It's about being able to receive feedback without crumbling or attacking. You don't shrink, you don't explode, you don't respond. That's maturity, and that's power. And let's take it even deeper, because emotional intelligence isn't just about how you deal with others. It's about how you deal with yourself in the privacy of your own mind. It's how you talk to yourself when you make a mistake, how you show up for yourself when you're tired, triggered, or tempted to fall back into old patterns. It's knowing the difference between self-discipline and self-punishment, between grace and excuses. It's being able to hold yourself to a high standard without tearing yourself down. That inner balance between strength and softness, fire and focus, that's what emotional intelligence looks like in real life. It's what makes you unshakable, not because you never feel anything, but because you know how to move through it. You've built the skill set. You've built the awareness. You've built the habits. And now you use that foundation to navigate the world with presence, purpose, and power. People will challenge you. Situations will disappoint you. But emotional intelligence allows you to meet life as it is, not just how you wish it would be. You stop needing everything around you to be perfect in order to feel peace within. And once you hit that level, once you truly master how to lead yourself and show up with emotional presence for others, there's no situation you can't walk into with confidence. When you bring emotional intelligence into the real world, your mind becomes the leader and your emotions become your ally. So we've come all this way. Building awareness, managing thoughts, regulating emotions, creating powerful habits, and developing emotional intelligence that shows up in real world leadership. But now we come to something that brings it all together, the real test. Because what good is all this inner strength if it doesn't hold up under pressure, if it disappears the moment something unpredictable happens? The final piece is applying all of this consistently when it matters most, under stress, in conflict, and in the heat of real life. It's easy to be calm when everything is going your way. It's easy to feel focused and centered when nobody's challenging you, when the path is clear, when you're getting what you want. But life doesn't stay that smooth. It tests you. It throws curveballs. People will misunderstand you. Deadlines will crush you. Expectations will overwhelm you. And in those moments, all the mindset work, all the emotional growth, all the habits, they're either real or they're not. They either kick in when it counts, or they vanish and leave you scrambling. That's why this final key is about integration. It's about being the same person when it's easy and when it's hard. It's about building a kind of inner congruence where your values, your mindset, your emotions, they align under pressure. That's real control. That's real mastery. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you were deeply triggered? Maybe someone said something that hit a nerve. Maybe a plan you worked hard on completely fell apart. Maybe you felt rejected or overlooked or disrespected. What did you do in that moment? Did you react? Did you shut down? Did you fire back? Or were you able to pause, breathe, and choose a response that reflected your highest self? This is the work. It's not about creating a perfect internal state and hoping the world matches it. It's about being so grounded that even when the world doesn't cooperate, for you still do. Even when you're disappointed, you lead with clarity. Even when you're tired, you speak with intention. Even when you're hurt, you choose power over panic. And that only happens when you've trained yourself for it, when you've rehearsed in private how you want to show up in public. You visualize the situations that typically throw you off. You prepare your responses. You study your own patterns. Because when the pressure's on, the brain doesn't reach for new ideas. It reaches for what's familiar. And if you haven't practiced emotional discipline, you're going to default to emotional chaos. That's why so many people say, I know better, but I didn't do better. It's not because they're weak. It's because they didn't prepare. You've got to train for the moment before the moment. If you know you get defensive when criticized, practice staying open. If you know you get anxious before big decisions, rehearse calm. If you know you tend to lash out when stressed, condition yourself to pause. Because here's the truth, your reaction in pressure-filled moments often defines you more than what you say you believe. That's where your credibility is built. That's where your relationships are strengthened or shattered. That's where your leadership either expands or contracts. And if you want to be someone who leads, who builds trust, who creates lasting impact, you've got to be the person who holds the line emotionally, even when everything's shaking. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean you become cold or detached. It means you remain centered. It means your emotions don't leak all over other people. It means you know how to hold space for tension without making it worse. It means you bring the temperature down when others want to raise it. You become the anchor in the storm, and this applies everywhere. in your business, in your family, in moments of grief, in moments of triumph. Because even in success, people get overwhelmed, they sabotage, they shrink. But when you've trained your mind and emotions, success doesn't rattle you, it humbles you, it sharpens your focus. You don't just celebrate, you sustain. See, this isn't about becoming robotic, it's about becoming resilient. Life doesn't owe you smooth waters, but it does give you the power to become the kind of person who can sail through any sea. And the more pressure you face, the more life gives you opportunities to test and prove that strength. And let's be real, people are watching. Your team, your kids, your friends, your partner. They don't just listen to what you say. They feel how you respond. They notice if you stay composed when things go sideways. They feel safe when you don't crumble. And that's one of the most underrated gifts you can give the world, your emotional steadiness. Not perfection, not pretending to have it all together, but a genuine, trained ability to stay grounded even when everything else is moving. And maybe the most important part of this is self-respect. When you hold your composure in the fire, when you keep your standards high even when no one else is looking, when you follow through instead of making excuses, you respect yourself more. And that's everything, because the way you feel about yourself when no one's watching, that shapes every other part of your life. When you live in integrity with the person you've trained yourself to be, that inner pride, that quiet strength, it doesn't go away, it compounds. So in the end, emotional control isn't about faking calm. It's about becoming so strong on the inside that you don't have to fake anything. You show up as yourself, clear, steady, powerful. And no matter what's happening around you, you stay in control. That's the real win.